What's up, buddy? In this video I'm going to show you how I painted this gold non-metallic metal. Here are the paints I used for this effect. To start out, I base coat the area in a 50-50 mix of red oxide and satin black. I really like how satin black goes on the shadow areas of my paint jobs, and I use 2 to 3 layers to get good opacity. The light direction is going to catch the front part of the shoulder, closest to the face, so that's where the brightest highlight will be. The first highlight is applied using a mix of nickel azo yellow and a little bit of sunray. The shoulder pad is a spherical shape, so my first step is to block in highlights in a circular shape matching the sphere. The goal is to paint the larger shapes of the highlights before moving on to the details within those larger shapes. It's important to note when we're painting non-metallic metal, when we first block in the highlights, it should read true to what the final values will look like, and at the end it all comes together. But the middle parts of painting non-metallic metal are called the ugly stage, so about 95% of this process will be ugly, but you just have to trust the process. I'm also going to add some secondary reflections into different spots of the metal here. I'm going to add some more sunray into my mix with nickel azo yellow. I'm making a larger shift up in value and painting that highlight within the previous highlight here. I'm also going to work on matching the top of the shoulder so there isn't a stark dark separator there. You'll hear me say nickel azo yellow from Monument Hobbies Experts acrylic line a lot in this video. It's excellent for NMM, especially gold NMM. The paint is pretty translucent, so adding some more opaque colors like sunray or red oxide help to get smoother layers when you're painting using this color. Now here I'm using some of that azo yellow thinned down to a glaze to add more of that warmth back onto the areas I've already painted. I'm also going to glaze some very thin down smoke into the shadow areas of the NMM. I'm increasing the value another step now. I add some more sunray into the mix. At this stage, there's a lot more sunray with a little bit of azo yellow. I'm focused here on picking out the edges and planes that would catch the most light. I'll also come in with some almost pure sunray to catch the highest highlights. Let me know down in the comments if you've tried any of the expert acrylics from Monument and what your experience has been with them so far. I've only used the azo yellow, but I have a few, and my experience so far has been really great, and I'm excited to use more of them. Here I'm adding some brighter spots to the reflected highlights or the secondary reflections as well. That'll create some visual interest when we're seeing the model in hand. And here's where I'm coming in with that almost pure sunray to add those dot highlights. At this stage, the overall highlights are looking really good, but there isn't as much depth in the shadows. So I'm going to glaze some thinned down purple ink into the shadow areas. The purple is a complementary color to yellow, and it will add a nice desaturated shadow to our metal. I try to focus the purple in the deepest areas of shadow and that smoke ink in sort of the more mid-tone areas. In the areas that I feel like I've darkened down too much, I'll go back and add some mid-tones again. As you can see right here, I want that secondary reflection to just catch a little bit more. So when we're painting NMM, there's sort of this back and forth between adding highlights, going back and adding midtones, adding some shadows again to the metal, and we keep going back and forth between those steps until we get the desired smoothness that we're looking for. So when I add highlights, sometimes it'll get too bright, so I go back with my midtones and shadows, then it gets too dark, and so we just sort of work that back and forth there. So here you'll see I go back and add some thin down smoke and purple ink to the shadow areas again. So I'm using the purple ink to catch those breaks in different surfaces, those edges. Now here I'm going back and highlighting those highest highlights again. My first pass is with Sunray with the tiniest bit of nickel azo yellow, and then I'm going in with just nickel azo yellow and creating those midtones again, and I'll use some of the smoke as well at this stage. And then to end it off, I'm going to use some pure Sunray to add dot highlights and highlights to the edges and planes that will catch the most light. And here's the final result. Thanks so much for watching the video. Please remember to like and subscribe to the channel. You can check out my website and links below to see the gear I use and to keep up with my painting journey. Some of the links are affiliate links that help support the channel at no extra cost to you. See you next time.